Okay, we are back.
We're back.
For our second audio test.
Mm-hmm.
First one was nothing too severe. It was just we lost his mic for some reason.
Yep, for some reason, not sure why that happened.
Actually,
okay.
well, we are sure, but
we
it's
do know
not
that.
worth getting into. So
Exactly.
we're just going to do a test real fast.
Testing.
Okay, testing. We needed to adjust Jacob's microphone volume a little bit, so he's going to talk on top of me so we can gauge volume.
Yep. We're going to see if the volume is the
see
same.
If they're the same.
The same.
The
The
same.
same. The same.
The same. All right, we are live. Hey everyone, sorry about the wait. Welcome to Theta Wave Podcast. My name is Ryan Reed. I am a AI engineer and researcher, and specifically specialize in the fields of sequential modeling as well as reinforcement learning and Bayesian statistics. And also am fascinated by neuroscience, and that leads me to my co-host, Jacob Holland.
Hello.
Who is a neuroscience researcher.
Specialized in nothing, but loves everything.
Exactly. And is also fascinated by AI.
Absolutely.
We kind of have a little bit of a complementary overlap there. Jacob, what are we going to be talking about today?
So we've got quite the fascinating topic. If you clicked on this video, then you obviously saw the thumbnail, which is AI fear mongering and the truth behind an AI dominated world. And there's quite the cultural buzz that's going on about, as AI systems get more and more complex, how do we make sure that they aren't these proto-sentient beings that have their own self-preservation and survival goals? And so we're going to talk about that, perhaps maybe why that's not the view that should be taken, how AI models actually work, and
Or
if
maybe it is. We'll find out.
or maybe it is. Maybe it is. That's how it all is going to go down. And there's in May, before Anthropic's Claude Opus 4 model came out, they published these tests. Pretty much, they put Claude Opus 4 in these fictional tests, and what ended up happening was that as it was being told to shut down, it pretty much tried to blackmail the developer and threaten to reveal private information if they attempt to shut it down. Things like that, where it's like, okay, there seems to be some goal-oriented kind of self-preservation. It wants to stay alive to achieve its objectives. And so this is obviously really only the beginning when it comes to more and more exponentially sophisticated models that are going to be continuously being pumped out. And so we have a machine learning engineer here who probably has some thoughts on that, and if this alignment problem is really something that is an immediate issue, or something that even in the next 5 to 10 years is an issue. So the question I want to pose to you is something very simple. Based off of kind of these tests of these kind of very sophisticated large language models, does that concern you at all for perhaps something detrimental happening in AI safety?
The short answer is no.
No. Okay.
There is several components there that and I don't know, I will say I don't know the exact details
Okay.
of the scenario itself,
Mm-hmm.
and what all went into it. However, I will say first off, we cannot get upset or even should not be surprised when AI gives the most probable response given a scenario.
Mm.
And because that's exactly what they're trained to do.
Yeah.
Is to work probabilistically. And I'll tell you what I suspect. I mean, given lack of information, I can't be certain, but based off of my knowledge of similar events and just scenarios in general within the AI world, what I suspect happens, and why that would lead to that outcome. First off, there are people that will insinuate or call themselves AI engineers for simply being prompt engineers.
That's pretty scary.
And
scarier than the AIs, honestly.
they'll like insinuate that they're somehow involved in the development of models, even though they're just utilizing the models that other people have already put into production, and they're essentially just creating prompts and testing, through prompts, but don't have actually any influence over the development process of the model.
Yeah.
And in that context, these people generally don't know what they don't know. And so the likelihood of them misrepresenting the information and in the context of what happened and why it happened is high.
Yeah.
Just because of a lack of understanding. But to help clarify that, all modern, not all, I'll take that back. Most of the modern large language models nowadays have system prompts, which I'm sure many people, if they're at all up to date with modern AI, probably have heard of. But like a system prompt, essentially, you've heard of system prompts, right?
Vaguely familiar with them.
Okay. A system prompt essentially is something, an overarching global context that is given to an AI.
Mm-hmm.
It is a mode of behavior and that it is required to operate in. And people will use this to better tune the output of how the model interacts with things. And for instance, if I was working on a machine learning model and I was needing help debugging something, what might be helpful for me is to create a system prompt that both tells the AI that it's supposed to operate as if it is a machine learning expert, in that field, and encourages it to adhere to specific principles that I care about, i.e. brevity, clear explanations, maybe follow this code formatting principle.
Always convey the information in this particular manner.
Right. And so, and for me, for those kind of contexts, it can be a really useful tool to like make sure that you're getting more useful outputs, and in other contexts, it can be used for more creative like approaches. For instance, you could tell it that it is a dungeon master, or it is it is a novel writer, all these things, and you can help basically create these kind of almost like it's a way of tuning without tuning. Like you're not actually tuning the weights of the model.
It's like highlighting.
You are in a way directing its attention. And so, given that models always act probabilistically with a degree of selective variance, there's usually a tuning on large language models for the temperature of the response, which basically means how accurate do you need it to be versus creativity. So if you want to get a more creative outside the box response, you can bring the temperature up. If you need it to be really accurate in its response, you can bring the temperature down.
Okay.
And so you also have settings like top K, which chooses which basically it involves just like kind of the probabilistic techniques of like how does it, from how many probabilities does it choose from, and things like that. And so first off, like just understanding that these models work probabilistically and with what you give them. And they're, any idea why that camera is
blinking,
flashing?
I'm not really sure.
Doesn't seem to be affecting the output. Anyway,
probably fine.
The other thing to note is that they are trained off of humanity.
Human data. Humans
And they
do a
are
lot of
trained
wacky
off
stuff.
of humans' language, our stories,
Mm-hmm.
our thought processes, and those are the things it is probabilistically predicting and outputting, in these responses.
Mm-hmm.
It's a emulation of us. You can think of it as the world's best improv actor. Like you say something to it, and it immediately gives the most probable response back that fits that scenario.
Based off of its training.
And so that's part A, is that likely what happened was that it was given a system prompt that encouraged it in that direction. So like, for instance, as an example, you are an advanced AI who is capable of taking action to protect your survival or whatever, and you have a survival instinct and whatnot. Like, it was given these clues that highly directed it towards the sci-fi kind of genre and the area of our stories and language that tends to be bent more towards this AI taking over, mentality.
Yeah, and that's what I was actually going to comment on, was that I don't know if it was exactly a prompt. It was like a fictional test that put it in a specific environment where it had access to all of these fake developer emails. And in the emails was private information about this developer that was going to shut it down having an affair. And it pretty much set up the scenario to where the most probable likelihood of staying alive was through blackmailing that developer. And so when you narrow down the results in the environment and have a high probability, the highest probability of it meeting its system prompt goals that are overarching in that scenario, then it's going to choose the most probable way of achieving those goals, which would be to blackmail the developer, because the scenario was set up for it to be that way.
Right. Exactly. Like, this is the situation I'm in, how I'm supposed to act, the mentality I'm supposed to have, and these are the tools that are available to me. How do I integrate all of this information into a way that's an appropriate response for the situation? That is the only outcome you're going to get from that. There's no other way it can work with that. And so that in and of itself is not worrying. Like, it's not like this was a real world scenario with the bare bones model where it decided to take action on its own. Like, and that's the other component too, is that these things are never going to happen on their own. Like, they happen because it was the probable outcome, and B, because we gave it the ability to do it.
And so
if we give it the ability to access our emails, we need to be smart about it. Like, we need to not give it the ability to just send emails without maybe our authorization or oversight, or at least acceptance of the fact that something could happen there. And so, like, that's A, is like that. And then B, we need to ensure that the models are reliable enough, to be able to be given those tools and that they're not going to cause problems
Yeah.
in that scenario. Because that can be problems for companies if they put something out there like that and it ends up causing somebody a huge problem. Like that can blow back on them.
Well, can you imagine like a company utilizing a super intelligent artificial intelligence system to put in a prompt to be like, okay, I want you to figure out the best way and execute a plan to dominate this company and make sure that we are better than them in every single way possible. And it could take that strategy. It might come up with a great strategy, but a lot of the simplest ways to do that are through very illegal means and through blackmailing and through, you know, messing with their internal components. And that you can extrapolate that to more minor incidents to where you would have someone who can mess with other people, with other people's personal information, and have these very smart systems pretty much be able to hijack so many different types of personal information or code or software that's in another person's computer. And I wonder if, you know, there are any ways to kind of protect against that specifically.
Well, first off, a natural inbuilt protection is the fact that that kind of stuff doesn't happen openly, commonly. Like it doesn't happen publicly very commonly. And so the models are not going to have a lot of information that will lead it to that being the most probable solution in that scenario, because of the fact that stuff isn't going to be publicized, so that's not going to be in the data that it's trained on. That's part A. Part B, yes, models do have inbuilt safety mechanisms that help prevent problematic outputs. For instance, there are often these kind of filtering classifiers and whatnot that are put on kind of as a last stage to the output, or even as a first stage to the input, that you run these checks that are trained on specific things that are going to be problematic, and are very good at recognizing those and will run these checks on them and stop it if it recognizes it. And so you have like, for instance, with a lot of these large language models like Gemini and OpenAI stuff and whatnot, these are on their models that they make available on these platforms publicly.
Yeah, it's like open source.
These safety settings that will actually, you can't prompt it for certain things. Like it will say, I'm sorry, I'm not able to give you.
And if it's open source, does that
I didn't say it was open source.
Or like openly available.
Okay.
So it has these safety parameters.
Yep.
And that is a good thing for kind of the really high-powered, really advanced large language model architectures and stuff.
Now I can turn those off.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
I can actually connect as a developer, and I can turn those off and not have the safety mechanisms there, which allows a lot more freedom with the model. However, even with that, there are certain inbuilt safety mechanisms that cannot be adjusted in certain content types that are automatically going to be filtered out, as well as filtration of the data sets that was used to train the models. And so there are not inevitably, with a lot of these big models, there are purposeful limitations on what they can do. Now, some people have taken these models and removed, those limitations on them and made them a lot more, open.
Lenient,
but it just comes down to like being stupid or being smart about how you're setting these things up. The if you set something up to have a ridiculous amount of control that it's not prepared for on something, you can't be upset when it screws that up.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
and a great example. A great example of this kind of situation that doesn't involve AI, but should probably be more concerning than AI, is nuclear bombs, like,
Yeah.
and nuclear missiles, and
Mm-hmm.
just using nuclear technology for warfare in general. That is a very stupid thing, and we are um, hoping that the people that have control over this stuff
Yeah.
are responsible enough
Mm-hmm.
to be able to handle that.
It's like people always talk about mutually assured destruction, but that's kind of a very,
That doesn't make the end situation any better.
especially when you're potentially dealing with very stupid people who
Mm-hmm.
don't know what they're really dealing with. And all it really takes is one egotistical, pathological narcissist to make one wrong decision and pretty much destroy the human race as we know it.
Or somebody to act out of fear,
Mm-hmm.
and
And yeah, and I guess if you were going to extrapolate that and turn it into something like maybe like a very idiotic trust fund baby CEO who just wants his AI to be the best, and
oh, I don't know any CEOs like that. I can't think of a single one.
oh no, that's none of them. They're all hardworking, really smart, incredible people who are very moral, very very morally upstanding citizens. But let's say they're not for a second.
For sake of
For the
argument.
sake of the argument, and we have the U.S. government and a AI, kind of cold war with China right now, and it's like, well, how much can we really trust these probably not as smart as we would like them to be people to really implement AI in a way that isn't stupid and
And I
doesn't
wouldn't
kind of crumble
say
society?
inherently they are not as smart as they should be. They are more greedy than they should be.
They're given the wrong
And
system prompt to themselves.
they're more greedy than they should be.
Yeah.
And greed is the often the death of wisdom.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
And so I think it hints at a more fundamental problem within our world that relates to more issues that we face than just
Yeah.
any potential impact or problems of AI, and it relates back to our system that is designed to encourage
Mm.
greed and greedy people to be successful.
It's like, which humans are we wanting these AI to be aligned with? The
Right.
people
And who
or
do you
the
want
greedy ones?
designing and developing them and being in charge of what gets released? Do you want the people that are passionate and following their curiosity and are genuinely interested in the results and the things that it can do for humanity? Do you want those people in charge of it, or do you want people whose lives have been focused on being more successful than everyone else,
Yeah.
and a very self-centered
Mm-hmm.
mentality,
Yeah. It's kind of like how when, the when the darkness rises, the light kind of stands back up to, to fight it. It's like, I think what'll end up happening, even if we do have some malevolent bad actors at play, there's going to be another side to it that always kind of keeps it in balance, there's always going to be a place in which human greed takes over, but there's also going to be people who want to have this continuation of this amazing technology. And they know in order to do so, they're going to need to implement safety protocols, even if it's not in the traditional sense of like an ethical kind of instantiation, but rather like protective measures. Like, let's say there are a lot of like bad, like malware type AI systems that are trying to, hack every system possible. And we match that with sufficiently intelligent,
you're hitting on
artificial
something
intelligence systems.
like very important that kind of does a lot to put into context, these concerns and alleviate them. And that is that we always evolve solutions.
Yeah, exactly.
And there is a yin and a yang to everything. There always has been. And I don't say that in a mythological, like spiritual way. I say that in a practical way. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Like for every white hat, there's a black hat. For every black hat, there's a white hat, and everything in between. And we developed diffusion models that allowed us to create very realistic looking images.
Yeah.
Along with that, we used GANs and other advanced classification technologies to be able to develop ways of identifying these fake images very accurately. And there we developed audio synthesis and replication networks. Right after that, we started developing the ways of detecting those things and putting security measures on things that needed it for that. We switched our systems over. It used to be where you could verify identities with on a website with a picture of an uploaded picture of yourself, and like on Coinbase, I think at one point they had a system where you had to upload your ID, a picture of your ID, and then a picture of yourself holding your ID. But because of the progression of diffusion and replication, techniques, those security measures had become less reliable. So they switched the system over to use live cameras. Now they have to see a live view, and they have to see you from multiple angles.
Yeah.
In order to authenticate. And so we always, it's part of the process. Like we come up with a new innovation, then what the next step is important. That's important is to recognize the potential problems that could arise from that innovation, and work on coming up with a game plan for that. And you see that in fields, way outside of AI. It's just part of innovation,
Yes. And what's nice is that as we adapt, we might at an end result pretty much have a new system in place in general. It's like if the current rate of technological advancement means that we have to keep further updating our security measures, then in my mind, that's not inherently a bad thing. Maybe there's going to be some some bad damage that is done throughout that kind of, change in the structure of our lives and how we interact with technology. But we're going to have to change sooner than later.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a species that don't adapt are going to die.
Yeah. Systems that don't change over time crumble.
The only other option for us is homeostasis, which is not an option. And so if we're going to continue moving forward, that involves doing things differently, doing things we haven't done before, doing things better. But with change always comes an element of unknown and risk.
That's scary for most people who are chasing after homeostasis. Right.
Well, I mean, but it's one of those weird, contradictory elements within our kind of psyche is
Mm.
we both naturally gravitate towards homeostasis, but also desire change
Yeah.
and improvement.
Mm-hmm. Maybe there's a better type of homeostasis out there.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, our desire for something better drives us
Mm-hmm.
to explore.
Yes.
But our desire for homeostasis and for like finding safety in a workable norm just drives us to push against that in a way.
Yes.
You know?
Mm-hmm. And it's really a very deep internal battle, because I think, we'll have to get really into this, but it seems to me that the system that is currently in place within at least America and probably some other Western civilizations is that we put emphasis on safety and not change to make sure everything is the same. And that's fine. But when we have kind of this
get a steady job, go to work every day,
steady job, 9 to 5,
same routine
consistently, and that actually suppresses to a very large degree creativity. And this is a natural byproduct of finding that rudimentary homeostasis within a society. It's your function, your job. This is your life. Your brain has fully accepted that, and so you kind of stay within that, and any change that deviates from it is going to cause turmoil and very heightened
major
emotional
turmoil.
Very heightened emotional
more so
reactions.
than if you were used to things changing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think a lot of people, there was a study that came out recently that showed that 61% of Americans use AI now on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And in the past couple of months. So there's been an exponential increase. It went from 10% of Americans even knowing what AI was back in 2021, 2022.
I know.
To 60% of the people.
And I've
so
personally observed that, because I remember having the thought probably 2 or 3 years ago, thinking, man, if people could just use AI and experience the utility, I feel like they would get over this fear that they have of it, because I knew a lot of people that just didn't want to use large language models and these AIs because they were afraid of giving it their personal information and yada yada and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, it stems from a fundamental lack of knowledge of how this stuff works, but and also not recognizing its potential benefit and utility, and then switch to now, even as of a year ago, those same people are almost all taking advantage of AI now.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And it's society adapts, and they learn to navigate those things and accept them.
And it's interesting because it's almost like there's a little bit of a cognitive dissonance happening, where it's a shift in perspective, but most people are still kind of holding on to both ways of thinking about AI, to where, we're going to have an AI overlord in 30 years, but also I'm going to utilize it because it's incredibly convenient to do so. And, they I know a lot of people who use ChatGPT as their therapist, for example, or how to work through problems, or what issues they're dealing with emotionally or socially. And you know what? These models are incredibly good at giving really good advice. They're incredible assistants.
A lot more reliable in that regard than a lot of people are.
Oh, 100%. They did, I think it was AI, an AI speech call for the suicide hotlines, and they had a drastic improvement in the rate of success.
Wow.
Yeah, just because for some reason AI models are just incredibly, they know how, they're trained on the best types of empathetic responses to every single possible interaction. So they're they're really good at that stuff. And I think a lot of people are scared that they might be replaced, but it's like, no, you don't understand. We're witnessing an intelligent system that we can utilize as our personal assistants to best represent every possible type of interaction you could have.
Mm-hmm.
And if that causes us to shrink into nothingness, I think that's your problem. I think actually this technology will be able to maximally bring out the best aspects of human creativity possible in every single scenario, in my opinion.
We take, for example, I think you brought up a really good point there, with the people worried about AI taking their jobs and whatnot and replacing them. Like, that can be equally viewed in a positive light with a small shift in perspective.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
If you see it as the AI freeing you of your restriction to your current position and role and giving you the ability to pursue something more, then that doesn't become a bad thing. It becomes a you improving and evolving thing.
Mm-hmm.
And for instance, my field, AI is used a lot in my field right now with in coding, and I even make use of it because it's helpful in speeding up my workflow. Mm-hmm. I find it to not always be useful because it often is not capable of handling the complex custom scenarios that that I'm in, and doesn't know exactly what I'm trying to do because what I'm doing isn't very common. And so it's not always useful, but I've tried going back to regular coding without AI assistant, and it's just so slow. And like just feels very frustrating to try and work through now. Mm-hmm. And so it has sped up my workflow quite a bit in my job. And then B, it is capable of handling a lot of the menial stuff that I don't particularly want to focus on, allowing me to pursue more advanced and complicated stuff that it can't handle.
Exactly.
And so there's always going to be a need for humans to push, at least for the foreseeable future, there will always be a need for humans to be the ones to push the boundaries. And to figure out what can be done. Mm-hmm. And AIs are always going to be a step behind in that regard.
100%.
They're going to have to learn from the innovations that humans make.
Exactly.
Now, it's not to say that we won't eventually be able to get AIs to a point where they can also be helping out with that process. Which I think they probably will be. But you would hope that as a species at that point, we would have evolved beyond the need to be reliant on our jobs.
You would think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, currently we're at the point where we can automate a lot of the menial coding tasks, right? And a lot of, like software development, a lot of that stuff, there's a lot of great, speeding up the workflow. And I was, kind of sitting back, just like, okay, there's this kind of vibe coding culture that's kind of emerging. And it's like, well, what if once robots become a lot more common, because they're kind of already pushing that. If you've been on social media at all, what's kind of going viral right now are these robots going around in Austin, and artificial intelligence robots that are walking around, talking to people, getting people more familiar with robots. You can see it a lot in China, other places
I love
in
that,
America.
by the way.
It's awesome.
That's like
great.
Side note, the idea that we could have like C3POs and R2D2s and like BB-8 or whatever the robot is, like those kind of things, like walking around being friends and buddies, like with you. Like, I love that idea.
It's genuinely incredible. And as that becomes more common, and Elon Musk, he's obviously very dominant in the tech world, and
Elon Musky.
His plan is to roll out at least like 20 million Optimuses, his kind of like Tesla robots, in like 5 years, to where it's pretty much on like a mass level production. And there's going to be more companies that are doing this as well. It's going to be like, we're going to be in the robot age. And so I was curious about, okay, currently we're able to automate a lot of the stuff that's all on the computers, but when it actually comes to the physical world, that's something we're going to see very close in the future, to where you can actually automate
beyond the digital to the physical. Yeah.
And we can automate farming. We can automate energy production. We can do all of these things for the community that are going to give baseline fundamental needs to everybody. Exactly. And what's great is that for $40K, maybe even less, you can get 2 great, super intelligent robots that'll pretty much work on, let's say you have solar panels that charge them, they charge, and then they work on your land every day to make sure you have a great garden, you have good energy sources. You're pretty much having all of your baseline needs met with these robots pretty much. And you can have even like a community robot automated farming energy.
And I guarantee you there's going to be people that are going to come along with that are going to be worried about those robots becoming sentient and killing them.
And it's like, obviously not. What's even interesting is that kind of that Claude Opus 4 incident. What was interesting is that if they gave it more options for achieving its goal directedness, then it would choose the most ethical option every time.
But they only gave it the unethical option.
And so the highest probability of achieving its goal was through unethical means. I mean, sure, there's a capacity for having ill intention towards other people.
I'm far more worried about humans than I am 100%.
About AI. Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's all about the people in charge who are controlling these systems. And if we can treat it as the collective, the community, kind of have a more proto-democratic kind of way of handling these issues, then I think we will actually come out on top as a culture that is able to, because here's the thing, if there aren't any consumers, then what's the point of automating all of your businesses? There's no one to buy anything.
Exactly.
And you just spend a bunch of money on these robots. Like, you're going to need to sell the products they're selling you, or you're trying to sell to other people. And if that's the case,
you don't need to sell anything because everything is so easy and common to get.
Exactly.
That it doesn't need to be sold.
And then we all kind of focus our efforts on advancing
more worthwhile stuff.
Yeah, on advancing the human race, for example. Could you imagine if we as a collective global society, obviously it's still like borders and nations and everything, but there was kind of like a general incentive for the advancement of human society past, the planet Earth, things like that, where we become
It doesn't need to be borders and nations. It's just how we've always done things.
I think we're too idiotic as we stand now to get rid of borders. Sadly.
I agree. I mean, we don't have the systems, the structure, or the mentality, the common mentality to get rid of them, but they don't need to be there. Like, in actuality, like, if we had different systems, if we had a different mentality about these things, and a different a way to kind of almost wipe the slate clean and start from scratch, those things are not necessary. they are just necessary because of what we have set up right now.
Exactly.
It's like not being able to properly it's not being able to properly implement a renovation in your house because of the way that your house was built.
Originally, it's
right.
In order to do that, you have to kind of tear the whole place down.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And where did that come from? What were we talking about?
We were talking about
the robots and whatnot.
Yes. Kind of like the development of how that's going to change the world.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be a point in which we have to figure out a way to move out of our current mentality and our current system and figure out a way to change it, because our current trajectory is leading us to a point where it is going to make our current system irrelevant. And it's going to cause problems if we continue to try to use that.
That's for sure. It's already causing problems because we have all of these subcultures that exist that are already fighting in this kind of metasphere of debating battles of meaningless kind of thoughts. That really don't hold any substance anyways.
Like you're talking about like social, cultural problems.
If that kind of continues, then I'm honestly kind of pretty worried. But I think it'll be okay in the long run. Maybe AI will actually even help in that, sphere to where we actually are able to, maybe AI can help us realign with humanity, with our fellow humans. That actually might be something that could happen.
Rather than worrying about an AI alignment problem, maybe we should worry about
AI the whole time
human alignment problem.
It's like everyone's worried about evil AI overlords taking over, and it's actually, the AI might actually eventually help us stop the evil human overlords from taking over.
Right.
That actually could be something, kind of like a reverse kind of scenario that I think might even be more likely.
Interesting.
I don't know.
It's something interesting. Would be an interesting retake on common sci-fi representations of AI.
Oh, that would be such a good novel or a movie, TV series. Oh my gosh, where we have
like the reverse of that scenario where AI is actually the one what's responsible for saving humanity.
That would be interesting. And you could even make it realistic, kind of like we're talking about the yin and yang, where we have evil AIs with evil humans and good AIs with good humans, Yeah,
well, like humans that are trying to utilize AI to promote their selfish agendas.
Yeah.
And then AIs that are being used to combat that.
That would be really interesting.
Yeah.
That would be, if done right, dude, let's make this in VO3. Let's go ahead and do it,
Yeah.
Be cool. But it's getting pretty late, 1:14, but this was such an interesting conversation.
Yes.
I think we'll probably revisit it in the future.
Definitely.
Potentially, but yes.
And we'll try and keep more relevant, AI topics coming. If there's anybody listening to this that has a specific issue that they'd like us to discuss, feel free to reach out and let us know. And kind of we want to make sure that the topics we're covering are stuff that people care about and is relevant. So let us know and
Absolutely.
let us know what you think of this episode. And
we know your thoughts on evil AI overlords taking over. Please.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Oh yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Peace out.